And we did that a little bit backwards, but that's one of my oops, and that's okay. Not the end of the world at all because we are back, and chat is interesting because we're going to the ergonomics and we're discussing the sheep's wool and the steel wool and people being comforted by this blend. I don't know.
And what I was saying was right before the break was that what we find in Egypt is that the Great Pyramids are actually constructed of huge layers, very massive layers of limestone and granite, inorganic and organic layering, and perhaps, now this was not Reich's theory. Now we're getting beyond Reich and we're becoming integrative with knowledge that came after Reich. Okay, so further research on pyramids revealed their composition, and people who like to connect dots are, like me, are thinking, well, perhaps the pyramids are a huge orgone accumulator, which was Reich's term for such a device, and perhaps the tunnels inside the Great Pyramids were intended to initiate the priesthood or others seeking what there I don't know, but the effects of an orgone chamber are to basically blast out your emotional and sexual selves. They just come barreling out. So if you were repressed, inhibited sexually, not no more. And people expressed great freedom and relief at knocking down these self-imposed emotional barriers that were sometimes leading to sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction in men, and a general lack of interest amongst women who otherwise would be, of an age, not postmenopausal, but young and vibrant, presumably. No interest in sex. Their husband's not happy with that, of course, and they're not happy with it either, so seeking some professional help. And instead of talking them to death and taking fees, by the way, for years and years and years for psychoanalysis, Reich had a very practical outlook. Let's go right to the root of the problem, which is basically physiological, has an emotional component. And we find that also with UFO abductees. They experience physiological changes, and they hear things like buzzing and sounds that they couldn't reproduce. The one problem with UFO sightings and witness accounts is, how can you describe something you heard, especially if it is quote unquote unearthly? It's not earthly, and I can't reproduce it. So I could sort of describe it maybe, but it's limiting.
Well,
right?
Certainly, but I want to touch on something that you just said, and that is with the actual ears with the abductees. Can you elaborate on that, the ringing?
Well, I've just published my first ebook, as I think you know.
I do. I'm excited for you. It's awesome.
Unknown Objects.
And the book is awesome, not just that you did it.
Well, thank you. And it's called Unknown Objects, the top 10 U.S. UFO cases. And they're not all abduction cases, but there are a couple in there, and they're striking. And those describe, in other abduction, first-hand abduction reports or accounts, describe basically almost an ESP effect, a telepathy effect, or a mesmerizing effect, accompanied by ringing in the ears, or just ringing, if not in the ears, hearing ringing. Again, we're not there, so we don't know exactly what happened to them. But in the case of, say, Betty and Barney Hill, which happened in 1961, and is notable because it was the first U.S. case to receive nationwide and international notoriety, publicity. And before that, there were no typical UFO abduction stories. They kind of they definitely set a precedent. What's interesting about their case is they didn't see small gray aliens, the small grays. They saw another kind. But be that as it may, they experienced buzzing sounds, vibration. They were driving along in New Hampshire. Their car started being pounded with a rhythmic sound on the trunk that reverberated through their car. Well, that would be alarming if you were driving along, especially if this strange light were following you, which is what was going on. They had decided it's not an airplane. And what is it then? What could it possibly be? And Betty had jokingly rolled down her window. Well, she'd rolled down her window and she said jokingly, "Come on over," waving her arm. "Come on in. We want to see you if you're a UFO." And it was obliging her.
Oh, my. Yes.
Barney, the ex-military guy, was freaking out, very concerned for the safety of his wife and himself. And their dog was with them, Delcy. So they reported under hypnosis years later, 4 years later, and this is medical hypnosis, not stage hypnosis. This kind of hypnosis was used after World War II as therapy for shell-shocked veterans. We'd now call it post-traumatic stress syndrome. Same thing, basically.
Yes.
So this is a medical doctor trained in medical hypnotism, putting people into a relaxed state of mind and being, and having them relive very traumatic experiences. And under hypnosis, both Betty and Barney Hill, in separate sessions and separate from each other's hearing, reported the same things. They corroborated each other to the smallest details. Very interesting. Now, I'm a skeptic, and this is basically hearsay evidence, but it's very interesting, this kind of corroboration. So as soon as they laid eyes on this UFO very close to them, they reported that the buzzing was not only in the car, but now kind of inside their heads. And after their whole experience, basically an overnight experience, they got home the following morning, they went to bed for a while, and when they got up, they still heard this buzzing, and they felt kind of tranced out, vague about what had happened. We would call it brain fog today. Mm-hmm. They were experiencing brain fog. So the other case in the book that's notable is Travis Walton. He's still alive today. He described the same thing, this psychological effect, psycho-emotional effect of vibration and a sound. When he first saw this UFO in the woods of Arizona, he said it was a combination of a very, very low frequency laid over by an extremely high frequency, almost beyond human hearing, probably more of a sensation than a real sound, though I wasn't there. I don't know. His companions, 6 companions in the car, or truck, I should say, pickup truck, who did not get out of the pickup truck to get closer to the UFO and then escaped fled after Travis was knocked down by a beam that came out of this UFO. They had a very clear sighting. It was unquestionably a UFO. Right. And that's what's common to these kinds of stories. This is unquestionably a UFO. But what the question is how reliable are the observers? How credible are they? And that question aside, we're talking about the psychological and psychic effects of UFOs. There is a psychic component to these things that mainstream science has a hard time dealing with because mainstream science doesn't acknowledge psychic phenomenon as real. It's a big problem with mainstream science.
Yes.
When you combine that with out-and-out propaganda that's coming out of organizations like NASA, it's shocking. And that's why the average person, I'm sure none of your listeners, but the average person, the mainstream person, really honestly believes you must be crazy to believe in UFOs.
Yes. Well, because, that's the mindset that is taught everywhere. And actually, it's not just UFOs, it's all anomalous topics. Obviously, if you're a Bigfoot experiencer, you're a freak. I'm a paranormal investigator, so I must have something wrong with me because, I'm exposing myself to demons every time I go, which is obviously a crock. But, it's just absolutely astounding how strong they are at getting that message across. And, it's no wonder that they're very adept at getting whatever they want people to believe out there. So, we are, I want to talk about some of the other things in your book. And also, I wanted to continue with you about Travis, because he actually was gone for 5 days. And
correct, yep.
To hear him talk about it is very interesting.
I know you met him over the summer.
I did, and I really
Where was
enjoyed
that?
That was at Contact in the Desert, which is the best event, truly, I've been to. I was so... I wasn't sure what to expect. And when I got there, it was just an amazing, positive experience. The people there as presenters and the people there as attendees were so interactive and very positive about the experience. Victoria, the woman who put that on, is very special in her own right. Her vision is what brings this thing to fruition, and it's just one of the best experiences. I can't even describe. I was able to meet Travis and just have some great conversations with him. It was the first time I got to see my friend John D'Souza present, and that was pretty neat. Because
what did Travis Walton say? I have to know before the break.
He said that it was not a pleasant experience, that he was, when he woke up, or when he started to rouse, he didn't wake up, but when he started to rouse, he just knew that something was horribly wrong inside of him. And that he just knew that, I believe, and other people believe as well, that he was actually killed. And they took him to save him and not have a dead human as a result of a UFO encounter, an alien encounter.
Yeah, they might have had some splaining to do.
Yes. But it was interesting because he reacted, because it was like, he said, I woke up and there's these giant bugs standing around in the room. And I came up off that table, and now he was 25 and very fit. He was a logger.
He was a logger.
And
he worked out every day, basically.
Yes. And, he's still just a long and lean guy. But you could see how he must have felt, right? He was terrified. These people, and he was going to fight his way out.
Yes.
And so they withdrew, and the next people who showed up presented as Nordics, which are more human in appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thought they were coming to save him, basically. And then realized, I think, that they weren't human, but they weren't as frightening. And that's what I took from that. And there was a lot more discussion